Welcome to Fantasy Sports today on SportsGrid as we close out fantasy football draft season. We're coming to a close, folks. The season begins Thursday. I'm sure you know that by now. A lot of you are drafting this weekend, early next week. It is Labor Day weekend, of course. We got a lot to get to here on the show today. We're going to dive into the latest news and notes and also have some rankings and updates as well. And George, it's another weekend here, the final weekend before the NFL season begins, with the first game being played Thursday. And in less than a week from now, they'll play opening night on Friday, too, in the NFL. And then, of course, everybody else on Sunday and Monday. I can't imagine leaving the couch for about 4 days next weekend.
My life, that's maybe what I do anyway, right? Depending on what sport is on here. It's probably about now, Craig, that you start to feel it a little bit, that it feels more real, because you mentioned this is a big weekend for fantasy drafts, right? Labor Day weekend always is. It's funny, though, I don't have any drafts this weekend. My drafts are always after or before Labor Day weekend. I don't know how people could do this, by the way. As a commissioner of a league, I can't get 11 guys that agree on anything, more or less, to have a draft on Labor Day weekend. Especially at our age here, we got families, kids, and barbecues, and this, that, school shopping. I don't know how people do it, but hey, if you're doing it, fantastic, and good luck in your drafts.
Yeah, Monday night is my final draft of the season. Labor Day night, 9 o'clock Eastern time. Yeah, I mean, that's when we usually do it every year. And we're going to do it again this year. And the good news is we have some clarification on one wide receiver, and that is Brandon Ayuk. We found out earlier in the week that Ayuk has signed with the San Francisco 49ers. So he is in the house going into the season. He gets that mega deal. Ayuk was discussed potentially of being moved to Cleveland, Pittsburgh. We heard a lot of teams may be in the mix for Ayuk, but that's not going to happen now that he's been given that mega contract. So you can safely assume that he is going to be catching passes from Brock Purdy all season long and even in the future. Now, Jamar Chase, on the other hand, as we enter Labor Day weekend, still trying to sort out what's going on with him as his saga continues to try and work itself out. There's some notion that he will play in week 1, but yet he's not practicing. So when does that start? Kadarius Toney among the cuts released this week, former first-round pick of the New York Giants. So Kadarius Toney out of New York Giants football, and I'm sure he'll catch on and end up playing somewhere. And good news for the New York Jets, as they're going to get Mike Williams in time for their first game of the season, a player that has yet to put together a full, healthy season, by the way. But when he's on the field, you like playing him in fantasy. You like playing him in DFS as well. So, George, let's get to Brandon Ayuk. And we saw the reports come out earlier in the week that he ended up signing with San Francisco. It seems like no team, to me, was willing to at least, cave to the offers that the 49ers had in place for him. And also, I'm not even sure that the money is something that other teams would pay. I guess we'll find that out at a later date. But the news is basically Ayuk, you can safely draft. If you want him, he'll be on the 49ers.
Yeah, now I have Ayuk in one league. I think it's a Scott Fishbowl. And the reason I have him in that league is because that league drafted, July, I believe. Right around July 4th is when that gets drafted. So that's when I took Ayuk. And I got to tell you, Craig, I probably stayed away from him, at least subconsciously, through all my other drafts because we didn't know, right? Not only did we didn't know if he was going to sign with San Fran, but you mentioned, was he going to be traded to Pittsburgh? Wasn't thrilled about that. Was he going to be traded to New England? Certainly wasn't thrilled about that. I heard Washington as a possibility too, right? So I was very careful with Ayuk, but he's back with San Fran, which makes me happy. I think in that league I have Brock Purdy as well, so I wanted him there, a nice hookup. So he's back. I will worry. I mean, we're the 31st, so he's got 8 days, 9 days. They play Monday night, so he's got 9 days really to get in football shape. Don't know if that's enough time. I don't think he's going to run his normal amount of snaps against the Jets that Monday night. But that being said, I don't see having 3-4 players better than him where you can sit him. So he's still going to play him there. Tough matchup, though. He's going to see some Sauce Gardner, no doubt there. But it's good for San Fran. Probably not going to be drafted Debo a little higher than maybe you thought you wanted because you're hoping he'd be the only guy there, right? So I can see that Debo owners being a little disappointed. Maybe George Kittle owners, same thing here. Purdy owners are happy. Ayuk owners are happy.
Yeah, and in the end, look, Ayuk is a really good player, as we've talked about here on this show. Maybe not necessarily worthy of being one of the highest paid wide receivers in the NFL, but upcoming free agency will get you that contract no matter who you are. And he's just such a good fit for that team. But I'm with you. I like Deebo Samuel a little bit more certainly going into it. Now, we mentioned Kadarius Toney, but there are a lot of other cuts, George, that happened in the week, and now we're starting to get the full roster views and the practice squads from some of these teams. A.J. Dillon was placed on injured reserve for the Green Bay Packers, so that means Emmanuel Wilson is going to get an opportunity. All of a sudden, we're seeing his ADP rise going into draft weekend. Also, Ray Davis, a player maybe not a lot of people are familiar with. He's in the mix now to get carries in Buffalo because Frank Gore Jr. was let go and then added to the practice squad. So, and, Carolina placed one of their running backs on the injured list too. So if for some reason you had a busy work week and you're going into the draft on Monday, this is a critical time to take a look at some of the draft risers. And I'm not talking about who goes from the third to the second round, George. I'm talking about players who were not drafted that are being taken right now.
Yeah, it's something I like to do late in drafts, which I think is what you're getting at here is when in doubt, take a running back. Take a backup running back. There's a reason why, Craig, I went into this season telling myself that in the first round, I wanted to take wide receivers, not running backs. The reason why? Because they all get hurt, it seems like. Right. And you don't have your first round pick or second round pick for, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it might be here. But that also lets you know the backups are valuable and they're out there. Most teams are using, a 2-back system anyway. So the second back's going to play. But the backs you mentioned are valuable. Wilson, Davis. Blake Corum, I think, is shooting up boards now because what we heard about Kyron Williams, he's going to return punts. What does that mean? How many snaps he's going to get as a running back each game here? So, yeah, backup running backs are so important. When in doubt in your teens, round 12, 13, 14, when looking for a player to grab a running back. They're lottery picks. And let's face it, come week 1, week 2, week 3, when you need somebody, you want to get somebody hot off the waiver wire, it's the first player you're going to release anyway. So you sort of have nothing to lose.
The Cincinnati Bengals will open up their season against the New England Patriots. So in a perfect world scenario for the Bengals, if you said, hey, it may take you a week or two more to get Jamar Chase signed, this would be the team that you would want them to play against. But the truth is, George, the NFL is wacky and anything can happen in week 1. In fact, I would not lay those points against any team in the NFL in week 1. It's just a crazy, crazy week, the first week of the season. But now owners are drafting on, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and they just don't really know what to do as far as Jamar Chase is concerned. And honestly, I think Zach Taylor did what he thought he was doing was the right thing, but he sort of did a disservice to fantasy owners because now if Chase practices, George, are we even sure that he's not going to pull the plug on this come Sunday?
I have my last draft that I know of, who knows, on Wednesday. So right before the season starts, if Jamar Chase is not signed by the 8 p.m. Eastern time Wednesday, he's certainly not a first-round pick for me. I'm not taking him in first. I don't know if I'll take him in the second. He's that guy I like to say, let him be someone else's problem. All right, because I don't – he will hold that – he has been there in camp, but he's not practicing. Or he's barely practicing. He's doing some individual drills. So I'm going to worry about soft tissue injuries. What if he decides to hold out to try and make a statement here because he wants the big money that everybody else is getting here? He has 2 years left on his contract, so I can understand why Cincinnati doesn't want to do a deal yet. Next offseason, not this offseason. So it's a huge problem. If he digs in here, I'm not playing less than all these other guys are making, and he is playing for peanuts. As far as the NFL world is concerned, he's playing for peanuts. If he decides to dig in, Craig, nope, I don't want anything to do with him.
Yeah, I know it's been a few years. Do you remember the last time we had this situation with a player that actually did sit out for a long period of time? Do you remember who that was? Crushed fantasy owners for the first half of the season?
Back in the day, it was Emmitt Smith in '93.
It was. After that, though,
2 games.
More recently. You remember?
Can you give me till after the break? I'm sure I'll figure it out.
Okay, let's do that. We'll take a break. Do you guys remember which running back held out for the first half of the season and more? First round pick in fantasy football 5-6 years ago. Be right back.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. with 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Carlos Alcaraz has won the last 2 Grand Slam titles at the French Open on the clay and at Wimbledon earlier this summer. He enters as the favorite.
You have a bunch of depth there. Francis Tiafoe, Ben Shelton, they will likely play in round 3. The winner would play Djokovic most likely, which would be an incredible match. I like Ben Shelton as a sleeper. If Djokovic is hurt, you never know. I think Shelton's actually the guy that gets hot. The conditions favor him.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
When you're really, really amazing like this, people kind of take it for granted. Same with Ohtani, right? People will sort of see, oh, Ohtani did this, Ohtani did that, and it sort of, becomes normalized a little bit. But to put in context, Aaron Judge joins the 1,000 hit club, reaches, gets it done. So earlier this month, he was the fastest player to reach 300 home runs ever.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
The leftover language would be the million shy of what Jefferson makes Jefferson a better player. If you want to believe that, I'm not sure I buy that he's that much better than CeeDee Lamb.
Tony Pollard's gone. He's now with the Titans. I was with the Titans a couple weeks ago. He'll be their starting running back there. They're going a different direction in Dallas, but it's all about CeeDee Lamb right now, the first of the other deals that they have to get done.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. And George, the tight end position in fantasy football, I've probably said it several years for people who have watched me here on Fantasy Sports Today. I think this is my 4th or 5th fantasy football season with SportsGrid. Is that back in the day, George, it was really conducive to taking one of the tight ends early because, in my opinion, when you're playing in the head-to-head leagues, normal format, and you ended up with Tony Gonzalez, or you ended up with Shannon Sharp, or you ended up with Ben Coates, remember him? Like when you ended up with those players, or Gates, Antonio Gates, you always knew going into the week you had an advantage over the person you were going into. And that's why I always used to take an early tight end, because I wanted to look at the matchups and say, my guy is definitely better than your guy. And that was definitely the case with those guys. We've seen that similar in terms of fantasy, but I think for the first time in a long time, George, I see a deeper position in fantasy where I don't know that I can say if I have Travis Kelce or Sam Laporta, my tight end is definitely better than your tight end, just because for the first time in a while, there's some younger players that have finally come on the scene. No longer the case when you have tight end 8, 9, 10, 11, is that player, just get me 3 catches and 40 yards anymore. I think that has improved this year.
Oh, I think that's fair. I think that's definitely fair. Now, I wasn't someone who would take a tight end early. I just couldn't justify taking Kelce in round 1, or round 2. I couldn't do it. Although everything you said is true. You took Kelce, you knew you were going to beat the other team's tight end, maybe by 10, 12
I'm talking
points.
about before Kelce, way back in the day. When tight ends were not being, when the balls were not being thrown and guys were just running the ball 30 times a game, you had 2 tight ends. You had Sharp. You had, Gronk. You just had a handful of guys, George, and that was it. Now it's like you can get to tight end 6, 7, 8 and feel like, all right, I'm going to get 5 catches, 80 yards, and maybe a touchdown. That just didn't exist 20 years ago.
That's just the tight end position has evolved, right? Good or bad. What did you and I talk about during the break? All right, running backs, how they used to carry the ball 30 plus times. Well, they would do that because tight ends were blocking. Right? They were blocking tight ends for the most part to give that extra offensive lineman. Tight ends don't do that anymore. All right, it's great if you can, and Gronk was a great blocker, but now the tight ends are really a glorified wide receiver. And these guys all can run like the wind. They're bigger than the safeties or the cornerbacks, so they have mismatches everywhere. So that's what the tight end position has become here, which is, once again, it's what the NFL wants, right? We want 80-point ball games here, which the tight end does help. And they're the big target over the middle. They help out the young quarterbacks here greatly. Now, I would still love to have Sam Laporta. He's not going on round 1, round 2. It's like third round now is where you're looking at the first tight end going here once all the superstars are gone. Kelsey is certainly there with them as well. I think Sam Laporta is going to have a huge year. I do. I'd like to wait a little bit, maybe a little later on, and get Dalton Kincaid because I don't know who else Josh Allen's throwing to. And I think he's going to have a big season here. Dalton Kincaid's touchdowns, by the way, 5.5. Taking the over on that big time. Allen has to look at him in the red zone, in the end zone, a whole lot this year. But tight ends come a long way, and I'll be waiting this year because if I wait till I get the 8th or 9th tight end, that can be Jake Ferguson. 10, 11. I'm fine with Jake Ferguson as my tight end 1, and I was able to load up on those running backs, load up on those wide receivers. So nothing's really changed for me. I generally waited anyway on tight end. Now I'm even more willing to do it because I know I'm going to end up with someone decent, not someone I'm like, oh, I got this guy this week. What am I going to do?
Yeah, it's much deeper this year, I think, in the past. It's not a wasteland like it used to be. By the way, we asked a trivia question, and people are watching like, wait a second, they didn't even answer it. Which player in fantasy football several years ago held out for most of the season? I think he was the 2nd or 3rd overall pick in fantasy football, George, and then missed. I haven't looked it up. I probably should have done that during our break. I feel like it was half the season. You remember who that was?
I do. By the way, I got it almost right before the commercial. I want people to know that when Craig said running back, that clicked it for me. So I got it's Le'Veon Bell of Pittsburgh. By the way, that's who the running
career
back
was never the same, right? Career was never the same from that point.
No,
never.
He was great. He fell off quickly, right? He was. Oh my God, he's got the greatest player ever, and then poof, done. He got old quick, or maybe he was doing the funky weed was his favorite thing too, right? So maybe that hurt as well.
A lot of guys fall off like that, George. I mean, Todd Gurley. That's people forget about him. First pick in the draft, and then out of football 2 years later. All right, tight end. So Kelsey and Laporta, those are the top two, as George mentioned. And there are a lot of folks who think that Laporta's value of taking him 10, 15 picks after Kelsey is a better pick. But the bottom line is that the third tight end in fantasy football may even give you the most value of all, and that's the one that was the surprise pick in fantasy last year, probably a waiver wire pick for most people. From the waiver wire to the third fantasy tight end being taken overall, that is Trey McBride. Now, some of this damage done without Kyler Murray, so let's be clear on that. Kyler Murray is now back. They feel like they have a better offense. They've also drafted a better wide receiver. But I would ask you, George, are you comfortable where McBride is being taken as tight end 3? Or if you had gotten to McBride, would you pass and wait for somebody else?
Now I said I've completed 8 leagues. I have McBride in 1. It is one of my more important leagues, so I took him. He was there, so I'm curious. You used the word comfortable. Am I comfortable? No, because I have a thing where I don't like taking 1-year wonders, and I don't mean that it's negative. I mean, but the player's only done it for 1 year. I like taking established players. To show my age, I can look at the back of their baseball card or football card, and I know what they're going to do because they do the same thing pretty much every year. You don't know that with younger players. He may be great, or he may fall off this year. We don't know. I wouldn't have McBride at 3. I'd have him at 4, so I'm not really dropping him that further. I would take Mark Andrews over him, along with Laporta and Kelsey. I might think about Kincaid as well, but I have McBride at 4. Like I said, I have in 1 league. I'm not saying I won't draft him on Wednesday night in the other league, but I'm comfortable with 1. I certainly wouldn't want him in 3 or 4 in case he is that 1-year wonder who can't hit it again the second year.
Yeah, and after McBride, the question is Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens, who was tight end 2 there for a couple of years, but injuries, George, have sort of set him back, and so he's no longer one of the top 2 or 3 options, but still a starter on every fantasy team.
Stay healthy. Stay healthy and he's big. That's who Lamar Jackson looks for in the end zone. Every time he's looking for Mark Andrews. Stay healthy, and he'll finish at least tight end 3. I like Mark Andrews a whole bunch.
All right. Well, coming up next, is there a new target in store for Josh Allen as we approach the first game of the season for the Buffalo Bills? I'm looking at the roster. I don't see them adding a ton of new guys. So could it be their tight end this year? We'll dive into Tier 1 of fantasy football tight ends and Tier 2 and Tier 3. Don't go away.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The leftover language would be the million shy of what Jefferson makes Jefferson a better player. If you want to believe that, I'm not sure I buy that he's that much better than CeeDee Lamb.
Tony Pollard's gone. He's now with the Titans. I was with the Titans a couple weeks ago. He'll be their starting running back there. They're going a different direction in Dallas, but it's all about CeeDee Lamb right now, the first of the other deals that they have to get done.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
When you're really, really amazing like this, people kind of take it for granted. Same with Ohtani, right? People will sort of see, oh, Ohtani did this, Ohtani did that, and it sort of, becomes normalized a little bit. But to put in context, Aaron Judge joins the 1,000 hit club, gets it done. So earlier this month, he was the fastest player to reach 300 home runs ever.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
The only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
New to the Live Golf Plus app. Watch Live Golf any way you want it. Follow any group. Replay any shot. Anytime, anywhere. Any questions? Watch Live Golf live and on demand.
So you're drafting your fantasy football team, and you didn't get one of those tight ends that we just talked about. McBride went early. Andrews went off the board. But don't despair. There's still some real quality tight ends to take, unlike years past. As we talked about, you can get to tier 2. You can get through 6, 7, 8 tight ends and still feel good every week. And Josh Allen is got to feel good about Dalton Kincaid, or else I don't know who he's going to throw the ball to. Now, they did add Keon Coleman in the offseason via the draft, but their wide receiver options are much thinner. Diggs is gone. Davis is gone. George. I mean, I'm assuming that Dalton Kincaid's numbers are going to be at the same level or better, but the only thing stopping, I think, anybody from this is knowing whether or not that touchdown number is going to go up. I think he still gets close to 100 targets. I think he gets 600-700 yards easy. But without the touchdowns, you're seeing Dalton Kincaid in a spot that he shouldn't be. We're making assumptions that he's doubling or even tripling these touchdown numbers, because if he finishes with 600 yards and 2 touchdowns, he's nowhere near the tier 2 spot.
If we're talking poker, I am all in on Dalton Kincaid. Now, I got to tell you, all the leagues I've been in, which are, a mixture of home leagues and expert leagues or industry leagues, he's gone before I get a chance to every league. So everyone is in on him as well. All right, if you want him, you got to get him when he's there. You're talking round 4, round 5. You can't wait. All right, because people are grabbing him because they all think the same thing. I guess that I think. He had 73 receptions, 673 yards, and 2 touchdowns last year. I think he surpasses all of those numbers. The touchdowns, they can be finicky. All right, but I already mentioned earlier in the show, his over-under for touchdowns is 5.5. I'm taking the over. All right, I think he has to do that. He just has to. There's no one else for Josh Allen to throw to. All right, I like Keon Coleman. I do. Rookie wide receiver? Who knows? When he figures it out, when he's that guy. Khalil Shakir? Really? All right. Maybe he's an NFL wide receiver too. Maybe. And you got some other guys there as well here. So, no, I am all in on Kincaid. I think he's going to be the focal point of the passing offense. I think he has to be. I think he's capable of being that too. It's a lot to ask of a second-year player, no doubt. But he's a mismatch. No matter what defenses try and do, he's a mismatch for what they can put up against him. And I don't think they'll double cover him. I don't think he'll be that here. So, yes, I am all in on Kincaid. He is my sort of in his own little tier at wide receiver 5, but I can't say this enough. I've done 8 drafts already. I want him, and I haven't been able to get him because everybody wants him.
That's not fair.
He's going even earlier than I feel comfortable with.
Yeah, I mean, come on, George. You really like a guy a lot. You got to move up. You got to get the guy. You got to get your guy.
I don't do that. I don't do that.
Can't look back
I follow
and
my
say
list.
what if. You can't look back and say what if. All right, so with the Ayuk news coming down earlier this week, I wonder if these next two tight ends we should flip-flop, but according to average draft position, here we go. George Kittle is the next tight end generally taken off the board. I feel like deja vu that I've said this before, but it feels like Kittle has all of his numbers over the course of 2 or 3 games over the course of the season. And then you have Kyle Pitts, who's being taken pretty much right after him. His projected fantasy points are really right around George Kittle. So I wonder, George, if we should be flip-flopping on draft day where these two are being taken, because I'm going to assume some ADP has been baked into Kittle with Ayuk not being on the field. What do you think?
I think that's fair. I think definitely the awesome ADP has been baked into Kittle. With Ayuk not being there. Now he is there. Listen, I like Kittle. He's sort of that safe tight end. You sort of know what you're going to get from him last year. But I'm looking at the numbers here. He had, 7 touchdowns last year. 3 did come in one game against the Cowboys. And they do play Dallas again, so there's that. Other than that, you look at his yards. He had 91 game, 149 against Cincinnati. Damn. 116 against Jacksonville back there. He had a nice 3-week span there. 78, 149, 116, 89, 4-week span. We really put up all his yardage. Other than that, it was a little pedestrian. Other than week 16, that Christmas night game against Baltimore, where he had a big game there. Listen, I like Kittle. Once again, I think he is ranked where he should be, although I would probably put Ingram ahead of him. All right? It's not Pitts somewhere. The Pitts I would probably around 8, 9, but I would put Ingram certainly ahead of him. Only because Ingram, he doesn't catch touchdowns. Kittle's sort of the same thing, but he catches a whole lot of passes, and I don't think that's going to change. Yeah. I don't know if he's getting 114 again. I think that's nuts. But I think he's going to catch 90 balls, 100 balls, somewhere around there. The touchdowns, he scored 4 in the past 2 years. Doesn't seem to be where he's an end zone threat there. For whatever reason, they don't use him in the end zone.
Yeah, and obviously Ingram also has some more competition. Brian Thomas is now there. Jacksonville drafted him too. Let's close out with Jake Ferguson of the Dallas Cowboys earlier in the week. Much earlier in the week, we found out CeeDee Lamb is back. I don't think that affects Jake Ferguson's ADP, and people love Cowboys tight ends, George. So someone's going to take him like Schultz and Witten and Ferguson and everybody else.
Bottom line is this. Lamb 1, Ferguson 2. That's all Dak has to throw to. Are you worried about Brandon Cooks, Jalen Tolbert? Jake Ferguson, like him a whole bunch.
All right, we'll be back after these messages. Don't go away.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Carlos Alcaraz has won the last 2 Grand Slam titles at the French Open on the clay and at Wimbledon earlier this summer. He enters as the favorite.
You have a bunch of depth there. Francis Tiafoe, Ben Shelton. They will likely play in round 3. The winner would play Djokovic, most likely, which would be an incredible match. I like Ben Shelton as a sleeper. If Djokovic is hurt, you never know. I think Shelton could actually be the guy that gets hot. The conditions favor him.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Welcome back to Fantasy Sports today. Craig Mish, George Kurtz. We are previewing the tight end position in fantasy football. We've gotten through 9 tight ends that feel pretty viable starting for you every week, and I think there definitely are more. But, George, we've definitely reached the point of tight end where you're picking your favorite, meaning that, hey, look, David Njoku, who we're going to talk about next, people who have short memories are going to remember how great he was in the second half of the season. He was like a league-winning tight end. But then you have Brock Bowers right after him and some other tight ends that we're going to get to. And I think it just comes down to, at this point, who you like, who you think has a chance to maybe be better than the projections. But I'm pretty comfortable, by the way, starting Njoku in a fantasy league going into the season. I'm pretty comfortable taking Brock Bowers and understanding that the Raiders, although I don't know why they took him, are gonna, they're gonna have to play this guy, right? But the truth is that they drafted Michael Mayer a couple of years ago and they didn't play him a ton. They drafted him in the first round. I can't imagine them doing that twice though here with Bowers.
I think they drafted Bowers because they did what you should do in fantasy. They went BPA, best player available, and Bowers was staring there. He fell a little bit further than we thought, so they grabbed him. I agree. You already had Meyer. You have so many other needs there. When you draft Bowers, don't you have to design your offense around him? Shouldn't he be the focal point? I know you got Devontae Adams. I get it. But Bowers has to be a focal point at some point. But then again, for me, I think this Raiders team is a work in progress here. I don't think their quarterback's not on the roster. I think it could be Dak Prescott next year, and maybe that's when they'll worry about this team here. But I do like Bowers. You waited this long. He's an upside guy. We'll see what happens here. There are other guys you can put in this category as well. Dallas Goedert, Philadelphia, right? We think their offense is going to cook. You got Devonta Smith, you got A.J. Brown, you got Saquon Barkley, we know Jalen Hurts. Well, no one's going to be worried about Dallas Goedert. So he's a player I kind of like here as well for Philadelphia. They do throw him the ball. You just need some little more touchdowns from him as well. As I said, it's tough to feed everybody there, but I like Dallas Goedert as well here. And a player, I understand they got Stephon Diggs. All right, I get it. But Dalton Schultz was pretty good last year. I think his numbers could come down, sure, because Diggs has to be fed as well. But this is another offense that should cook. There might be enough balls for everyone.
Yeah, and I think Schultz, again, coming out of who did he replace in Dallas that he came out of nowhere with? I don't remember. They had a different tight end there. It wasn't Whitten.
Well, the tight end, he got hurt.
Blake Jarwin. Blake Jarwin. Right. That was the guy.
Blake Jarwin got hurt, and we've never heard from him again.
Right.
He got hurt, and just one of those guys. That injury took effect. Right. We never heard from Jarwin again. That was between Jarwin, Schultz, and now Ferguson. They do pull tight ends out of their backside. Guys that we don't expect to be good guys.
They do, and usually effective, and especially when Dak missed time. Remember those cast of characters they had at quarterbacks were just hitting those tight ends constantly. Cole Kmet in Chicago is another potential option, and clearly at this point we've gotten to the point where someone's saying, Craig, I'm not comfortable starting Cole Kmet every week. Okay, well we just did like 12 tight ends, and we felt really good about it. Now we're getting to the point where it's a little bit of a wild card. And speaking of which, after Cole Kmet, this is the big wild card of the season, George, for a lot of reasons. Again, it is Taysom Hill. And someone saying, oh, Taysom Hill, I'm not doing that. Folks, he qualifies at tight end on Yahoo. He qualifies at quarterback on Yahoo. And George, I know it's crazy to think, but Winston is gone from New Orleans. If something was to happen to Carr, you're getting a quarterback at the tight end position in fantasy football this season. I got to tell you, I'm going to have Taysom Hill after I do my draft next week. I'm going to throw that dart late in the draft. I don't know if I'm going to play him or not, but it doesn't matter if it's Sean Payton or Dennis Allen. They just love playing this guy. He's always getting playing time.
I think you're 1,000% correct. Once again, this is sort of a little education. Check your sites. Check your sites' position eligibility. You mentioned Yahoo has them. A lot of us play on CBS or ESPN. Check to see where Hill is listed at. If he's listed as a tight end, you have to draft them. I mean, you just have to draft them. All right, you draft them late. Once again, you can get them in round 10, round 11. No, certainly later than that. So there you go. I think he's coming up a little bit now because we're all talking about it. So I think he's going to come up, and he's not going to be where he was here, where no one wanted to touch him. Now we all want him because he's a lottery. Yeah, he's actually better than a lottery pick because he's going to play some quarterback. We know that. And remember, Derek Carr. No one expects Carr to be the New Orleans quarterback next year. So it's not really a lot of allegiance there. All right, they might not feel let's get rid of Carr, or let's play Till for a little bit more than we thought because he's moving the ball. He can do different things. He can give a defense a different look here. Hill will play. There's very little doubt in my mind. And if Carr gets hurt, by the way, he literally just hit the jackpot.
Yeah, and I think so. I mean, I'm off camera here looking beyond the tight ends we talked about as we close out our tight end preview here, and I'm going to go through some names here. And simply put, these are names that you're probably, if you're in a league where you have big enough rosters and you can have 2 tight ends, I'm going to give you some names, George, and you tell me if you like any of them as we move forward here. So TJ Hawkinson, who is out and going to miss several games, but still being basically drafted as a last minute tight end. You put him on the your IR, and then he comes back, and then he's viable again. But who really knows what their quarterback situation is there? I would ask you about him. On top of that, in Tampa Bay, the hot name last year was Cade Otton. Otton came on very well for the Buccaneers. Generally speaking, haven't made a lot of the tight end position. If you think the last 5-10 years, it's only Gronk, right? And pretty much nobody else. Isaiah Likely was the hot name on the waiver wire. Baltimore Ravens tight end. When Andrews went down, everybody was calling for Isaiah Likely. He was a little unlikely. He wasn't great as well. So let's do those 2 names. Luke Musgrave on Green Bay, too. I'll give you those 3 names. Any interest in Musgrave, stashing Hawkinson, Cade Otton, or anybody else that I forgot?
All right. We'll start with Hawkinson, right? Yeah. I want to add him if I can. If I can get him, around 14, 15, because once again, you already said it. You put him on IR and you grab somebody else. You really didn't lose anything there, right? So, yes, I want to take a shot on Hawkinson. But I'm the first person to tell you, Craig, coming back from the ACL, I don't expect him to be anything this year. I just don't. So I think once again, it's a lottery pick once again. You see what happens here. Especially if you drafted a tight end late when you don't have a good tight end. You say, why not? Let's see what I have in Hawkinson. You're playing in a keeper, a dynasty league, though. I would really love that move to get him late. You mentioned Isaiah Likely. If I have Mark Andrews, Craig, I probably want Likely. Because what did we say earlier? Andrews is great when healthy. He just returned to practice, I think it was Thursday, if I remember correctly, after the car accident. So he's already been banged up. All right, so yeah, I want Isaiah Likely if I can. Luke Musgrave, probably not. There are a lot of mouths to feed there too. There's not top mouths, right? Watson, Doubs, so many of these wide receivers you got to worry about there. So I'm probably not as crazy about him there. How about Conklin for the Jets, by the way?
Yeah,
I mean Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. I kind of like Conklin. I kind of like him because I got him in a league where you need tight ends get extra points. So I like him even more now. He better do something from there. Pat Fryermuth, Pittsburgh, Fryermuth.
I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. I don't want to like him, but
you're going off the deep end.
He's got name value there. How about Okonkwo? Okonkwo, I think I got it right now. Tennessee. Yeah, so I think I might. He's not Noah Fant.
How about let's play this game? Carolina Panthers tight end.
No, I don't even know who it is. No.
Jatavian Sanders?
No. I don't. No. Outside of Thielen, Johnson, I'm about done with Carolina. I think that's I know the running back with a pulse.
You know that we've reached the point where the segment is coming to an end, and I think we did a really good job. I think we covered all the draft. Noah Fant's the one we missed, but I think that we basically touched on almost every tight end that we would draft in fantasy football. What would you say, Sam?
I did mention Fant, by the way, real quick.
Oh, Hunter House.
Oh, Hunter Henry. He catches touchdowns. Hunter Henry catches touchdowns. Listen, I don't want anybody on the Patriots. I don't even want Stevenson.
We got him all.
I know he has a pulse there.
We got him all. We get an award after the show for getting them all. All right. Brandon Ayuk is back with the 49ers. George and I are going to come back. We'll talk about what that means for fantasy football. Updates on any injured players we got for you as well. Fantasy sports today rolls on here on this Saturday. Happy Labor Day weekend to all of you. We'll be back with more FST in just a couple of minutes, so stay on the grid. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this. Mike Tomlin could have very easily put this to rest and say that, Russell Wilson is the starting quarterback.
Mike Tomlin's going to look at, hey, Russell Wilson led that clean drive. I think that separates him enough to give him the starting job. But I think you're right that the leash is going to be pretty short. And if Russell Wilson doesn't look good, Steelers fans pretty quickly are going to be calling for Justin Fields because of his scrambling ability.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
The leftover language would be the million shy of what Jefferson makes Jefferson a better player. If you want to believe that, I'm not sure I buy that he's that much better than CeeDee Lamb.
Tony Pollard's gone. He's now with the Titans. I was with the Titans a couple weeks ago. He'll be their starting running back there. They're going a different direction in Dallas, but it's all about CeeDee Lamb right now, the first of the other deals that they have to get done.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
If the U.S. gets to a bad start and they're down or close, I may double down on the second quarter because I know that that's when Steve Kerr is going to want to either A, if it's close, open it up. If they're losing, you got to get the lead because you don't want teams like it was in South Sudan that believe that they can win.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Let's go. Welcome to the Live Golf Team Championship. The golf has been mesmerizing. They are the Live Golf Team Champions.
Team golf is back.
Oh, yes!
Are you ready?
Let's go! That's what champions do.
And welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. The big news in fantasy this week is Brandon Ayuk is back with the San Francisco 49ers, finally rejoining practice, his hold-in. They're calling it a hold-in for the first time ever. That's a new term. We'll be using that in the future. But he is back. The 49ers offense, arguably one of the most dynamic in the league. Deebo Samuel, to me, one of my favorite players in all of fantasy football. Christian McCaffrey is in my dynasty league, half of my salary cap. Half of my salary cap, George. Yes, that's what I said. But he's that valuable in fantasy football. So, with McCaffrey missing some of the preseason, Ayuk would appear to be 100% healthy. The 49ers offense is just as dynamic as it was going into the year. I guess there are some upset Ricky Pearsall people out there. It's probably fair to say. Some people drafted him late in the draft thinking, yes, I got Ayuk. But I would also say this before we move on, George. And the reporter in me, how I feel about this sort of stuff. I'm not taking shots at any reporters, but I am going to do it with the social media people. This Ayuk story was one of the worst covered social media stories that I've seen in a long time. Reporters can get things wrong every once in a while, but the aggregators and people that were online reporting this stupid stuff that he had been traded. Remember, he had been traded to Pittsburgh a couple of times. He's on the plane a couple of times. When are people going to learn? Look, I'm going to get stuff wrong as a reporter with baseball. Definitely going to happen. Sam, no, he knows that. I get stuff wrong. It happens. But trusting these stupid people online, on social media? And then what? If they get it right 5 months later, they knew? What are we doing here?
It's tough to trust the right sources, right? And even Adam Schefter got yelled at by the agent last night, right? Because Schefter
You could
reported
tell.
that
Oh yeah.
the contract he signed was the same contract that was offered a month ago, 2 months ago, and the agent said that's just blatantly untrue. I think that was his words, not mine. So listen, it is what it is. Everybody's craving for information. I got to get out there first. It's not always correct. Remember Shohei Ohtani, and he was reported to be on the plane to Toronto. Was an Asian guy who was on the plane. Right, that was kind of ridiculous.
And by the way, that was a genuine reporter that got that wrong too. And I guess that's bad to get that wrong. But I understand that point. But I guess my point is, it's not that, George. I'm talking about people believing these social media accounts that things are being reported without people even covering the team. So to me, that's, or any team for that matter, and just throwing stuff out there and just assuming that it's going to be right. I hope a lesson was learned here. On top of it, I'm glad you brought that up, because I can tell you how uncomfortable it is to be in the spot between Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport. I mean, George, by the way, elite reporters in the game. My dream would be to be as good as either one of those guys are. I mean, I think I'm pretty good, but to be them is crazy. I mean, George, did you see exactly how that played out yesterday, by the way? Did you read between the lines a little bit there? So Ian Rappaport got the story, right? And he was the one that broke the Ayuk story. And then 15 minutes later, you see Adam Schefter say, well, it's could have got that deal anyway. In my opinion, I could be wrong. I think Adam Schefter was a little upset that he didn't get the Brandon Ayuk story. That's just me, man. I could be completely wrong there. But that's the way I read that post, was I didn't get the story somebody else did, and who cares? He didn't get a lot of money. I don't know, just me.
I think you're right, by the way, when it comes to that. Schefter's actually from Long Island, by the way, for those who don't know. Used to live in the same town as him. But I think you're right about that. You become, especially when we do what we do, very careful on social media.
I've been there. I've been in that circle with those two on the baseball side. And there's nothing more annoying to me than not having the story and somebody else does, and kind of having it, but being told that somebody else had it before me. I want to do everything like I can to just crap all over the story, but I don't do it. I'm just like, all right, I didn't get that one. I know it's not a fantasy story, but maybe it takes people behind the curtain a little bit with reporting. I think that's fair. So back to the 49ers we go. Ricky Pearsall takes a little bit of a hit. Kittle takes a little bit of a hit on draft day, but you got to feel super comfortable drafting any of these guys. And, like every other team, it's all about, Purdy being healthy and running the offense. That something happening to Purdy, George, would crush everyone except McCaffrey. McCaffrey would be fine, I think.
That's all true of most teams, right? You lose your starting quarterback, you're probably screwed. A couple of teams can survive for a couple of weeks with the backup here, but not many have a top-notch backup. I don't even know who the backup of San Fran is offhand. So yeah, they would have some issues here. But what we're not talking, Brandon Allen, by the way, there you go. Joshua Dobbs is there too. Yeah. Brandon Allen and Josh Dobbs. Remember Dobbs from last year? He was the big guy.
I like Dobbs. So I still like Dobbs. I know he completely fell flat eventually, but
he's a backup. He's a backup. He could be a decent backup.
But he could be Minshew for the next 10 years, right? I think he could play. He could come in and help a team. He's done it how many times already?
I think you're probably right. Yeah, I think he'd be a good backup for years to come here. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. We destroy these players. They're not starters. Backup's a job. It's a top 64 quarterback in the NFL. Pretty damn good year, right? You don't even get the pressure. He may just hold the clipboard there. I've always thought the best job, though, but I guess there's no backup punters. That'd be a pretty good job, too. Now, one thing we're not talking about that affects everybody, they still have one other player not reporting. Okay, and I think this player was more important than Ayuk. All right, I think he's much more important than Ayuk. This offense does not run without Trent Williams. And he ain't coming back. Anytime, unless he gets his money, he ain't coming back. He will hold out. He ain't bluffing. Now, I think Jamar Chase might still be bluffing. Trent Williams ain't bluffing. He wants his money. And we saw in preseason when they played their starters there, Purdy was running for his life. Snap, running, because there's no blocking there. They need Trent Williams. They need his attitude. They need everything about him. I think he's more important than Ayuk.
All right, fair enough. All right, now this is the moment everybody's been waiting for us to do defenses. Are we going to do kicker rankings on this show too? It's like the only thing I think we left out for the last 2 months. We haven't done any kicker rankings. But anyway, we're not doing it. We are. Wow, we are doing it. Okay. Wow, here on folks, We got kicker rankings coming here. Isn't that a reason to stay streaming here on SportsGrid with Craig and George? I mean, you got to stick with us for that. Coming up next, we got sleeper options for some flex, wide receivers, running backs. We'll go over that, of course. But next is our defense and tight end rankings, folks. Do you take a tight end in the first 10 rounds or a defense in the first 10 rounds? We'll answer that question coming up next. And who do you take, by the way? We'll answer that question too. More FST coming your way next.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Carlos.
And welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. Well, of course, we're going to cover defense, special teams. A lot of folks still play with those in fantasy football. I know my home league, I play with those. George, let's take a look. Tier 1 defenses in fantasy football. Of course, it always is kind of like the best teams in the NFL. You have the 49ers, the Ravens, the Cowboys. The Browns' defense is really good, and so are the Jets. But let's start there with those 5 teams. And what's your strategy as it pertains to drafting defenses? I mean, I don't know. What round would you say? Would you draft a defense before the 10th round, George, in any league?
Not unless they're the point system's out of whack, right? And listen, we all play in some leagues. Where I play in a league where the point system is out of whack, where a defense can be worth the same as a running back too. So then I might do it. But in a standard league, which most people are going to play in here, I mean, we usually play 16 rounds. I might think about it in round 12. There's just no one else out there that's speaking my name. But there's no defense that's going, oh, you got to get this defense. There's not. All right, we don't know how this new kickoff thing is going to play out. Will there be more returns, more touchdowns? Once again, defense, special teams. So we don't know yet. So that could change thinking a little bit if a team has a good returner here. But generally, you're probably talking around 13, around 14 for me is what I'll start thinking about it. I mean, you mentioned the teams here. New York Jets, by the way. Don't forget the Jets. Really good here. And you probably want a team that's going to score points because, therefore, the other team has to throw the football. Better chance for sacks, interceptions, fumbles, that sort of thing.
You know, I have to say I haven't had to draft a defense yet in any of the leagues that I'm in. And you can look this up for me while we're doing this. But generally, George, you know what I try and do? I try and pick the worst team in the NFL and just draft the defense to play against them in week 1. Because to me, if I can buy one win in week 1 going against the Patriots, that's where I want to be. Who does New England play week 1? I haven't even looked. I guess it's escaping me.
Cincinnati.
Right. So what I would do is I would take the Bengals week 1. I would take my starter for the season somewhere else, but I would also take the Bengals just to play against New England in week 1.
It's funny you should mention that. I didn't do it on purpose, but there was my last draft. It worked out where all the defenses were taken early. You know, I was on the wrong end of a run. There was nobody I liked. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm taking Cincinnati. They're playing New England week 1, and I will stream from there. Right? I don't know if I'll take them again. Week 2, they're playing Kansas City. So I'm probably not taking them week 2. I will stream from there, which is becoming a more popular way of going about things. You know, the defense are gone, just stream. You'll find somebody who's playing somebody terrible that week, and you don't even have to spend $1. In most leagues, you can wait till the waivers pass, and then you get it for free, first come, first serve. And that's probably how I'm going to handle that league.
Is the streaming options to start, you think the ones going against New England and Carolina? Is that fair?
New England, Carolina. I mean, I wouldn't do a Giants week 1, but they're going to be a team you're going to want to stream against a lot. I don't trust Minnesota's defense. But those are the two. Carolina, we don't love New Orleans' defense, but I'll take a shot at it. But there'll be teams you can pick on weekend. We got Pittsburgh. You can pick on them. With the Atlanta Falcons
That's
at
true
home.
too, maybe. Yeah.
I might not mind that. I'm looking at
Real
other teams here.
quick.
Tennessee, Bears.
Real quick, let's go through some other draftable defenses. Let's just do tier 2. Tier 2 defenses: the Kansas City Chiefs, Pittsburgh Steelers, Buffalo Bills, Eagles, and Dolphins. I think beyond that, you're just throwing darts, right, George? Like at that, beyond those teams. And by the way, the Dolphins defense isn't great. They just score a lot of points. The teams are going to throw, right? I mean, it's dart throwing at this point.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what the Dolphins are. That's sort of what I said there, right? You want a defense where they're going to score points, teams have to throw, better chance for mistakes, right? And you get there. And if the Dolphins can rush the quarterback, I think Pittsburgh will have a good defense, so solid. I don't know if I love them for fantasy. They're not really a return defense here. Some people like the Chicago Bears. They were a good defense last year. Maybe not a great fantasy defense. They don't get the turnovers and sacks that we need here. I mean, Detroit could be another team, sort of like Miami, right, Craig? They're going to score points, forced to throw. They did reinforce the secondary. All right, so maybe that's the place we can go for there. They do have a decent pass rush as well.
Yeah, Miami, New York, Buffalo, all getting New England twice. Miami gets New England twice in the earlier part of the season. So again, something to consider going in. All right, coming up in hour number 2, we're going to go through some of the flex options in fantasy, and also we'll talk some super flex quarterbacks, and of course, play buy or sell. And then at the end of the show, George always comes strong with something that he's going to complain about. It is the SportsGrid 60. Don't forget, each and every Saturday morning, George and I are getting you ready for the upcoming week in fantasy football. Naturally, week 1 a little bit different this year. We got a game Thursday night, got a game Friday night, but we're here for you every single week throughout the fantasy football season. And also Jokies at the end, Matt Stryker every Sunday as well. So stick with us. Plenty more to come here on Fantasy Sports Today on SportsGrid, and we return right after this. Mike Tomlin could have very easily put this to rest and say that Russell Wilson is the starting quarterback.
Mike Tomlin's going to look at, hey, Russell Wilson led that clean drive. I think that separates him enough to give him the starting job. But I think you're right that the leash is going to be pretty short. And if Russell Wilson doesn't look good, Steelers fans pretty quickly are going to be calling for Justin Fields because of his scrambling ability.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
The leftover language would be the million shy of what Jefferson makes Jefferson a better player. If you want to believe that, I'm not sure I buy that he's that much better than CeeDee Lamb.
Tony Pollard's gone. He's now with the Titans. I was with the Titans a couple weeks ago. He'll be their starting running back there. They're going a different direction in Dallas, but it's all about CeeDee Lamb right now, the first of the other deals that they have to get done.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
If the U.S. gets to a bad start and they're down or close, I may double down on the second quarter because I know that that's when Steve Kerr is going to want to either A, if it's close, open it up. If they're losing, you got to get the lead because you don't want teams like it was in South Sudan that believe that they can win.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Let's go. Welcome to the Live Golf Team Championship. The golf has been mesmerizing. They are the Live Golf Team Champions.
Team golf is back.
Oh, yes!
Are you ready?
Let's go! That's what champions do.